fashion. Everyone has an opinion. Over the past 75 years, fashion shows have transformed from pictures into real-life showcases produced around the world. The mythology and reality of the front row has evolved, along with our increasingly fast, globalized planet. Industry shifts, the media, and the power of influence and celebrity all play a role in who sits front and center at Fashion Week.
A new designer, Christian Dior, was chiefly responsible for launching the most recent fashion revolution.
In the 1950s, fashion was characterized by a return to tradition. Christian Dior's famous new look emphasized a specific point of view on femininity and was the dominant silhouette at couture shows. Upper echelon society women placed orders for the upcoming season, while editors and photographers decided what to show in magazines.
This boutique is aimed at the middle-range buyer, and we men are headed for quite a fall.
Clothing in the 60s embodied individual ideas of freedom. Designers began to allow press photographers to document the still exclusive scene. Front row celebrity presence wasn't yet determined by marketing strategy, but by personal relationships with designers.
Clothes today are illogical, decadent, and too expensive.
The 70s brought self-expression to the forefront of fashion. Once intimate gatherings became large presentations with hundreds of store buyers from around the world. Alongside the usual crowd, a new kind of cultural influencer signaled a new possibility for the fashion show. In addition to selling the designer's latest collection, the fashion show now becomes its own kind of entertainment, and a front row seat holds greater social capital. If the 70s pushed forward expression through clothing, the 80s added glamour. Power dressing and supermodels marked the decade's appetite for extravagance. More is more. An unofficial front row formed, filled not with the most important editors and celebrities, but by photographers surrounding the runway.
People think of models, you know what the image of models is, but obviously it must be bright if you're...
What is the image of models? I'd like to know. Single-digit IQs and stuff like that.
By the 90s, the media circus had fully invaded shows. And in the age of the supermodel, the fashion industry went mainstream. The front row was still coveted, but backstage was an even more exclusive party.
Gorgeous.
The millennium arrived at Fashion Week. With it, a newly minted fashion star, the celebrity. The front row became part of self-promotion strategy. Some were there to watch the runway while selling a film, fragrance, album, book, or trying for a role in a fashion campaign. As actresses and musicians replaced models, an uptick of fashion websites, blogs, and street-style photography meant a Fashion Week invite was an opportunity to become a star. Suddenly, an event intentionally made for a select few became accessible to all, at least through a screen.
Eventually, you'll have telephone, email, typewriter, and the television will be in there. Everything will be in there.
In the advent of social media, the 2010s invited new characters to the front row, fashion bloggers and influencers. Fans turned influencers arrived with startling economic power. It was often said technology democratized fashion. With newly perceived accessibility, the experience of the fashion show changed, with influencers broadcasting in real time to millions of followers. The impact of influence would go on to change the industry and the world in a permanent way. a global pandemic brought the world to a halt. At first, it seemed the concept of the fashion show itself would be re-evaluated.
I guess you had to flow like water and find alternatives.
But when restrictions were lifted, it was back to business as usual. For most, questions on alignment of values and messaging emerged. The fashion industry was no exception. The front row continues to feature the usual editors, buyers, influencers, stylists, celebrities, and so-called friends of the brand that reflect designers' values and community. In a new twist, a design debuting on the runway can now be seen on a VIP gracing the front row. And in this moment, the fashion show experience expands to the front row itself, reaching the world at the very same time.